We're less than a week until Ohio State plays its first game of the 2024 season. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik. And we talk with the offensive line on Thursday evening as Ohio State continues to prepare for its season. And Stefan, it does seem like Ohio State has its starting offensive line with Joshua Simmons, Donovan Jackson, Seth McLaughlin at left tackle, left guard, center, and then right tackle is obviously Josh Fryer. Too many Joshes. And I was just talking to Justin Fryer about this, and I said, hey, what do you think about Josh? And he's like, which Josh you talking about? I'm like, oh yeah, there's 7 Joshes on this team. Over the first couple of weeks of fall camp, obviously the sickness going through put Shabola in a position where he was getting a lot of reps with the ones, and he was maybe flashing at that. And now it seems, even though Ryan Day didn't want to outright say it, it does seem like Shabola is going to be the starting right guard when they take the field next Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he's at least going to play against Akron. You know, Ryan Day said that Shabola will play, and they're just kind of trying to figure out the capacity of how much he's going to play. On the flip side of that, you do have a guy in Carson Hinsman who seems to still be competing for that right guard spot, and maybe that's kind of a last-ditch effort on Saturday to see who the actual starter is going to be. But that's kind of the nice thing about this early part of the schedule that's, you know, kind of been criticized recently for being weak is specifically for the offensive line, a unit that needs to be improved for Ohio State this season. You have 3 or 4 games and a bye week kind of mixed in there to really figure out what you have, especially at right guard. So Tegra might be the starter game 1. He might be the starter game 2. But that bye week could also play a big part too. So I think that's where Ohio State's really going to benefit from the schedule is going into that Iowa game. You're going to have some time, or even a Michigan State game if you want to, you know, just because it's a Big Ten game. You have time before conference play to really figure out what you got on the offensive line. But right now, I'd be pretty surprised if at least for game 1, Shabola wasn't the starting right guard who's getting majority of the snaps, majority of the important snaps.
Justin Frye was talking about back in the spring, the goal was to get to 8 or 9 guys that they could rely on. And I asked Justin Frye about this. Hey, the con of having a full sickness just run through your offensive line room is you probably didn't get to build that continuity, but you got some older guys who are vets and have played around each other before. But is there anything positive that came from this? And we've heard about Austin Zervell getting opportunities. We've seen Ian Moore get some opportunities. You know, Luke Montgomery moving at center and moving all over the place. Josh Padilla, the list can go on. But it gave you a chance to maybe build some depth that they maybe didn't have and get some guys in some positions. And the way Justin Frye put it was like, you think a guy's got some dog in him, but when you're thrown into the fire like that, you really get to see it emerge. And so guys like Austin Zervell and Luke Montgomery and Carson Hinsman when he finally got back out there. And Tegra Shabola, as we're talking about, a lot of these guys got some opportunities to go with some groups that they maybe typically would not go against, and maybe it's helped Ohio State build some depth, and we can see that depth play out in the first month of the season.
Yeah, no doubt. And even if it's not necessarily depth for this year, right? Like, let's say everyone stays healthy and you just kind of roll with 5 or 6 guys the majority of the way. You kind of got to build some of these younger guys up for next season. They got to get some reps because you look at the recruiting class, they don't have a guy that's coming in and going to be a day 1 starter next year at right tackle, right? Like, you've got spots where you got to kind of get some guys in there and make sure that they're developing. Otherwise, you're going to need a pretty impressive portal haul at offensive line going into next year.
Yeah, and that's going to be an interesting conversation to have in January as well. But for right now, it does seem like Justin Frye feels confident about maybe 8 to 9 guys in his room. We'll see if that plays out when Ohio State takes the field against Akron next Saturday. Get the text 614-350-3315. We'll continue to have this conversation. Go listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you find podcasts. He's Stefan. I'm Steven. That was a video.